Kia ora whānau. Just got a bit of a rant to have to my fellow New Zealanders, especially since we're having all this government stuff go on with them changing a lot of the rights for Native people. Firstly, I want to say it's the most touchy subject you could ever imagine, and it's the most misinformed subject you could ever imagine. In New Zealand's fucking whole repertoire of things that you could bring up as a subject of the local nation. Now, firstly, I love my Māori brethren. I'm a New Zealander 100%. I'm no Caucasian or European white person or whatever the hell they call it in the thing. I always put New Zealander. I'm a proud New Zealander. I've been here since 5 generations, I think we were here. So a long time ago. But after any of the more nefarious stuff. But what I'm getting at, Whānau, is that it's a very loaded, very touchy subject, and something that seems to be a little bit driven by false narratives or like other things that keep people unhappy. That's the reason why I want to touch on this and inform my fellow people that this is actually a thing that's, for a start, this is just to help. Let's help the people that feel real, that put out or still, we'll call it residually grieving for the things that happened to people in the distant past, right? I had a mate of mine say one day, he went to a full immersion Māori school, my best friend. He said to me one day, bruv, I don't want to sound racist. And I thought, well, this is, what's coming when someone says that shit, right? But he goes, fuck, I hate the English. And I can't even remember why the exact reason why he was having a bit of a thing. But firstly, like, I guess he meant the government when he said English. And secondarily, I said as a response, I said, yeah, fuck the English. I don't like those can't do that. Because I assumed he was talking like in a historical sense. Like, I don't think he knows any English people. Or he might do, but, as I say. And he was taken aback. He was really confused about why I said that. And I said, brother, my heritage is from Ireland and Scotland. And we've unfortunately been oppressed by them for a long time, like 1,000 years, roughly 1,000 years of English, raids, colonization attempts, other tactics to, has anyone heard of the potato famine before? Within about a 4-year period, about 4 million Irish people out of 8 million, half the population died from a disease that the English, made the potatoes. That was a staple crop in there. They, as a Scottish side, for example, that, everyone's seen Braveheart. They take your wife on your first night of marriage and shit like this. So lucky, so that was one kind of when racism keeps you away from the other R word. So, as I say, I don't feel any such way about, I don't like it. That's why I don't, I agree with them. I don't have anything against the English. I personally just wanted to pose the point that just because we have white skin or something does not mean that we are even similar necessarily, or like haven't had the same issues, problems, and tragedies that as other people have had. A treaty. Fuck me, I wish we had a treaty. That would have been fucking sweet. You do know that that was the first way, or the first document colonizing a native people in the world. So fucking feel glad you had a treaty, because fucking straight up. A lot of people didn't. Sorry, whānau, had to go get the charger. Where was I? Basically, I was just breaking down the point that we all suffered back in those days. Like, you can't judge people until you really know what their particular struggles are, because compared to a lot of people, a lot of native people of any land that had that process occur to them, that was like a really good one. They'd put that at the top of the list for like preferred ways of getting taken over, honestly. And there's no good way, but there's better ways than some. As I say, it's like the RC. I'm not sure how exactly far it is, but it's probably something you can get across in a ship in like a day. You could like pack your bag on fucking Friday and pillage all weekend and be home on Monday. Whereas sending any kind of meaningful force 5 months around the world, half around the world in a ship, back in those days, is a bit more difficult, isn't it? So by default, it makes it a little bit easier to fucking fuck with your neighbour than it does to fuck with somebody, in the fucking arse end of the world. Also, it's just lucky that the English had like naval superiority and could just tell the other, colonizing powers of the time that they wanted that, and that, we'll do stuff to you up in Europe if you fucking take it off us. Because it would have definitely happened, but you may be speaking, or I may be speaking now, any number of languages, including, East Asian, probably likely to be Dutch, French, or Spanish, or Portuguese. Like, it'll be one of those kinds. And England was tied up with a few other colonial exploits at the time, so they just sent minimal people. They didn't try and colonize by force. It was more of a slow a settlement type process, rather than any kind of go there and do this classic, are you going to be English? Like they did everywhere else, and everyone else was doing it at the time, by the way. Do you want to be English? You there, native, do you want to be English? I'm assuming that's how they spoke, because, as I say, no, boom, you want to be English? No, boom, do you? He's like, fucking hell, dude, what do I have to do now? Right, which was the very common thing. The Dutch probably would have been the most likely to come here and take it over, and they've got a great track record with the treatment of native people at the same time. I mean, South Africa's, no one's heard anything bad about the social structure of South Africa in the last couple of hundred years. Not at all, right? So, as I say, it was this. What I'll try and do is give a few positive points about how to look at this little historical event. You didn't have it fucking anywhere near as bad as just about everybody else, like as a race. Māoris, like, fucking A, my people got the fucking document. Yo, good on you. I have no problems with that. It's fucking mean. If you hustled them, good shit. But the main thing is A, it was going to happen anyway. It was, well, as I say, it happened to other people way worse. B, it was going to happen anyway, and just because they were not that interested too much in like a speedy or thorough colonization process, it was very, very mild, and very unimportant for about the first 50 to 60 years of its kind of existence. Don't think that people like my family came out there those 5 generations ago spending 5 fucking months at sea on a boat or something, because we liked it in Ireland and we were really great fucking friends with the English. No, that was, get the fuck away from those people, to be honest. So keep that in mind. Like my Scottish side, think about this too. Most of the people that ended up having Māori wives and stuff like that out of any of the colonisers was mostly the fucking Scottish and the Irish. So yeah, we're quite diverse anyway. But I digress. You can't compare like tragedies that the only comparison can be numerical. Either you compare apples to apples, like what the levels of poverty were per capita, things like this. Otherwise, you're insinuating that your ancestors were worth more than my ancestors for some fucking reason, which I don't really agree with. I find quite amusingly offensive, just for the fact that you know there was no time. Well, actually, we'll get into this because there was tragedies, but I tell you what, it's not what you think. You can look this straight up. I'll tell you in a sec the facts and statistics and the timeline behind the process. So this is all the backstory. Um, so you can imagine that there's still a lot of people that are very upset about this kind of thing. And I'm not saying that the government didn't obviously do some little tricky things, but um, being taken over by a piece of paper is pretty fucking sweet. Like both sides of my family, and a lot of the fucking nations around the world would have been like, "Oh my god, you guys got it lucky. That's so cool. You guys got the best deal. What the fuck?" Um, and basically, in that sense of colonization or that type, that particular, um, at first, basically, you're doing it as another outpost and some resources and so on. You've got no way of taming the land to any kind of meaningful degree. You have to travel around boats if you want to get anywhere. You can't send bugger all infrastructure there. It has to all be built up, or like it's very expensive and has to be very necessary to send here. Makes us very ingenuitive and resourceful people. But it was a very more of a think about this too. Uh, Regardless of who it was, it still has massive benefits if you go from Māoris were fucking the most advanced Stone Age race on the planet. They advanced the Stone Age further than any other civilization, and I reckon that's so cool. It was also because of the fact that there's no ore or resources to make metal in New Zealand, so you can't actually progress past the Stone Age because there's no raw materials to get to the Bronze Age and Iron Age and all that kind of thing. So, as I say, you really, really hone and um, perfect what it is that you have available. And they were super creative. As I say, the Māori culture is a part of my life, my history, my whole identity. It would be incomplete without this group of people who I have many family members. Half my family is Māori, and I'm very culturally aware and personally very I'm proud of our, um, our whakapapa and the whānau we have as a whole in New Zealand, but we are multicultural. So it's, you know, that's one of those controversial topics, right? It's like I'm bringing this up now because of this the talk about getting rid of the Tiriti O Waitangi. And I don't mind, I don't care, but I do think the policies that create a separation through just racial lines need to be relooked at because we are a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multifaceted modern day society. We don't need there needs to be a limit of how far you can, you know, post well, you know, post honor, whatever that the proper word for that, retrospectively honor a document that's so exclusive. Like it's great that it's happened, but there does need to be some kind of corridor about what that means in law and social, the social realm, as in education and social welfare and like the opportunities that are imparted. Like many people get a huge kickback from the government just due to who gave birth to them, I guess. And this is yeah a historic thing, and obviously somebody felt guilty. Um, but I tell you what, as a kid learning this shit in school, which was super brief and made me feel like guilty as hell. For some reason, I was like, you're white, so white people came here and colonized this country. I was like, shit, 8 years old. Oh man, obviously it's so far in the past. I don't know anybody remotely involved with that shit or anything like this. but I felt guilty. Um, and it's only been since March 2022 that history is a compulsory subject in schools. Like, what the actual hell? Um, that's very late, and it took them 7 years from 2015 to 2022 to even get it through the quagmire of bureaucracy and become policy. But as I say, so it was elective, and it felt to me like a guilt trip. And it wasn't until I really got interested, obviously not at 8, into um, my own whakapapa, my own ancestry, that I found I was like, how on earth? There's nothing. I'm not even just extracted by goddamn 150, 200 years of time. I'm extracted out of this in the sense that, like, we got that same shit. Like, um, one of the whole points of this is not only information, is to maybe give a little bit of perspective, so it makes um, the mind of anyone affected by this kind of thing in a traumatic way or a grieving way just a little bit more resistant. Because I know you're the people that are gonna get pissed off at this shit. You're strong. You can do it. You're a resilient, brave um, group of people. Subset. I don't want to label it into race because both sides of the party, like both sides of the fence, get very wound up about this completely ridiculously taboo subject. Like, as soon as you've got any kind of uh, point of view that's not the main narrative, that basically, so simple as this is how they explain it, this is how you get the picture of it through any kind of. Don't look at government websites for this shit. They guilt tripping themselves. They don't even put the information there. You have to literally Google specific, like, different websites to find the musket wars, for example. Like, the government shit just pops up at Google. It starts at 1845 when the land wars, which were the wars between the colonial troops and the Māori for over land and stuff like that. But I'll get there shortly. So the 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 message behind this is I'm impartial. I'm completely independent of this. To have, as I say, I've explained my kind of background, my being, my ancestry, and as I say, it's just to give people a little bit of perspective that it's not actually as bad as you think it is or was. No way. And I just want to, try and inform people to not make so harsher, or judge things without having the full set of information. Right? So this is how it was taught to me in school. Sometime back in the early 1800s or mid 1800s, some white dudes in red coats on boats came here and told the indigenous people, "This is our land now. If you don't like it, too bad." And then they had wars for ages, and they got really oppressed. Then they decided to do this mean scam on them, where they gave them this document that basically like took their sovereignty away, and like and instigated some kind of land acquisition type scenario, and it was all really shady, and it was like two different documents that were in two different languages. So the translations aren't exact. You'll know shit. Half the terminology in something like the Māori language wouldn't have been a concept that they had any idea about. Sovereignty. What the fuck is that? You can't. Yeah, it's not practical in their eyes. It wouldn't have been practical in a mid 17th and mid 19th century, mid 1800s Māori person to have any concept of that somebody could rule over like any kind of large area, let alone the whole of the fucking country. So yeah, it's not a realistic concept. And of course, it's gonna lose a bit of the accuracy in translation. Also, they used language that you can't like compare now, because sovereignty is quite an old school term, and people get hung up on that word about the treaty at the minute. Oh, they used words that they couldn't understand or didn't interpret in the right way, and it was like a big lie. So no, they were using old school English probably. They're fucking it's one thing about English. It's the long way around. But so in reality, what happened, and this is all referenceable, there's like so many accounts and stuff like that. in reality, when the settlers were coming here in the late 1700s, there's only a few little settlements around the place, right? And they were quite happy to let the Maori do what they did. It's none of their concern as long as they kept it peaceful and kept it do their own thing. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. Sweet as. But they did trade with them, which is a massive benefit of colonization. Again, you get all the tech real quick, so your life becomes a lot easier really quickly. But unfortunately, there was kind of a trend, or I call it a trend. It was the cultural way, and this is not exclusive to Māori. This is literally something that every tribal society has done. It's called tribal warfare. And that basically means that, if you wanted, if anyone wronged you, for example, or you wanted a few little resources that maybe someone's collected, or you want to, they were a slave society, so you go get some workers on your on the off months, go for a few raids. But being an extraordinarily proud and warrior culture, if you did something, they're probably going to pay you back next year. So it's all a big back and forth all the time. But you're trapped by the fact that you've got Stone Age hand weapons, which Māori are some of the best hand-to-hand fighters in the world because of that. It's very difficult to travel in a, was it as a subtropical, some kind of rainforest anyway. It's dense rainforest from like shore to shore, over everywhere. So you can't really get around easily, and you're very limited in how much destruction you can really cause. That all changed in 1806, though, because that culture didn't change. Just the availability when muskets came, and they sold muskets as the settlers would, because they had no problems with giving them a tool that they could use to hunt and do things like that. But they basically immediately used it for the culture of tribal warfare. Within from 1806 to 1845, so mind you, 5 years after the treaty, was called the Musket Wars. And they basically had to estimate what the population of New Zealand would have been at that time, due to the census man being off sick. Now, of course, obviously, you have to extrapolate your estimations, but they reckon there was between 80 and 100,000 native Māori in Aotearoa at that time. By 1845, there had been 30,000 people enslaved or displaced out of that potentially 100k, and there'd been between 20 and 40,000 people killed in just Māori on Māori intertribal warfare. There's a few little gems of characters during that period of time. One of my favourites is a fellow named Te Raupraha. Now, he was an interesting case. For a comparison, very quickly, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but for comparison, during the land wars, which was the colonial redcoats versus Māori over land disputes, that whole 35-year period from 1845 to 1870, 745 redcoat troops, English troops, died. And because they've got quite accurate records, due to English fucking love writing, love recording everything, multiple different levels of people that need to record for transparency, and so no one's falsifying too much. It was a bit difficult. It was 745 English soldiers. There was 2,154 Māori deaths during that whole period of time in this so taboo land war. So compared to, basically 2/3 of the whole population being internally either destroyed, enslaved, or having to shift away, run away, or move, um, done by, you know, people of their own culture and race. And remember when I said just before that it was 1845 was the time in which the musket wars ended. 1840 was when, 5 years previous to that, was when Treaty O Waitangi was signed. Now this was not because like it was pushed by any of the crown's forces. No, it's quite the opposite of that. All the elders, the kaumātua, the village chiefs, tribal chiefs, all partitioned for their someone like. But the thing about this, that'd be similar to like, how do you guys keep control over all your tribes back in England or whatever? Or we've got like an agreement where we've got like a big force of people that come and stop anybody that's fighting with anybody else. Like, oh, well, how does that work? Well, we kind of sign the thing that says we promised to do that. Hold on, Bonnet.